I generally consider myself pretty productive, and on top of 9 to 5 work, can squeeze in about 2 to 3 hours of studies and personal endeavors each workday. So when I decided to take an entire day off work to study for the Professional Scrum Master certification and complete a couple of practice exams, I thought I would have plenty of time and might even finish it before lunch. My plan was pretty simple. Wake up at 6 AM as usual and have breakfast. Spend the morning studying for the exam. Then have lunch around midday. In the afternoon, continue studying and do some practice tests. And then finish around 5 PM. Now, what actually happened? The alarm went off at 6 AM, but I slept in. I had the whole day and could afford a bit of extra sleep. I eventually got up after 7 AM and got a coffee and some breakfast. I checked my email and found it was pretty cluttered. I thought I'd be productive and clean it up. The weather looked pretty good outside, and I remembered it was going to rain the next few days, so I took this opportunity to do the laundry. My desk was pretty messy. I definitely wouldn't be able to concentrate with all these things on the table, so I cleaned it up first. It was a weekday. The shopping centre should be pretty quiet with fewer people, so it would be more efficient to do the groceries today rather than Saturday. And as a bonus, I would get the whole weekend to do other things. By then, it was around midday and I took a lunch break. After lunch, I felt a little tired. It was a busy morning, so I made another coffee and chilled out a bit. Afterwards, I eventually started a Udemy course on the Scrum exam. The Udemy course was getting a little tedious, so I took another break and ended up watching some random YouTube videos on YouTube instead. By then, it was late afternoon, and I caught myself not focused on the task, so I switched to watching some short Scrum tutorials on YouTube. And it was 5 PM. At the end of the day, I felt a little frustrated. It felt like a productive day, but it definitely wasn't productive, as I didn't get much of what I planned to do done. In the following days, I did some study in the morning before going to work and completed a practice exam after work each day. And in the next week, I took the official exam and passed it. Reflecting on it now, even though I had less time during the workday and was busier and more tired, why was I able to get more things done? Parkinson's Law. Work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. Those who have heard of Parkinson's Law can probably see the trap I fell into. For those unfamiliar with the term, it was first described by C. Northcote Parkinson in a 1955 essay in The Economist titled Parkinson's Law. In the article, he shares the story of an elderly woman whose single task for the day was to write and send a postcard. She spends the first hour finding the postcard, then the next hour finding her glasses. After that, another 1.5 hours was spent finding the address and about another hour and a quarter writing the message. Another 20 minutes was spent deciding whether to take her umbrella with her to the post box. What usually takes a person 15 minutes to write a postcard and send it took her a whole day. While the example is quite extreme, we probably all experience it to some degree. For example, when given a month to complete a task at work, you might have finished it more slowly than needed. When your teacher gives you 2 weeks to write an essay, you procrastinated and only started it in the last few days. These are all examples of Parkinson's Law at play. In my case, I had the entire day and wasted most of it by finding trivial things to keep myself feeling productive. This is a striking difference from my typical workday, where because there's very little time, I strive to not waste it and focus on getting things done. A great approach to creating that sense of urgency and encouraging focused work is to use the Pomodoro Technique. It's a time management methodology developed by Francesco Cirillo in the 1980s and involves using a timer to break up your work into smaller intervals. The steps are pretty simple. Firstly, plan out your work into smaller tasks of 25 minutes. Work for 25 minutes to complete one task. Then take a break for 5 minutes. Repeat 4 times, then take a more extended 15 to 30 minutes break. This method is effective because it's much easier to stay focused for a 25-minute block 10 times in a row than working without breaks for 4 hours straight. In each 25-minute block, commit to working on that single task. Don't reach out for the phone, read emails, check social media, or try to multitask. A 25-minute block is long enough to get meaningful work done, but not so long as to feel tired or overwhelmed. In addition, the short breaks in between helps us get a breather and refreshes our mind. For me, on weekdays, I usually do about 2 hours of studies before heading off to the office, and about another hour after work, so I had always unintentionally worked in blocks of time. However, I've since started following the Pomodoro Technique, splitting up my time into 25-minute intervals and finding I can concentrate better and get more things done. Finally, perhaps a not so obvious but equally important mention is how I studied for the exam. I didn't think much of it then and just began my exam preparation by doing a Udemy course, watching various YouTube videos and reading content on the internet, all of which wasn't the best use of my time. The Pareto Principle, also known as the 80-20 rule, was conceived by Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto. While studying income distribution within society, he noticed roughly 20% of the population control approximately 80% of the wealth. Pareto wondered if this pattern was just limited to wealth or did it extend to other areas of life. Pareto loved gardening and grew peas in his backyard. He discovered that 20% of the pea pods in his garden produced about 80% of the peas. He also examined his book collection and realized that he frequently referred to only 20% of his books for the majority of his research. For many events, roughly 80% of the effects come from 20% of the causes. This pattern seemed to show in various aspects of life, including productivity, time management, business, and even personal relationships. A small fraction of causes often produce a majority of effects. You might have seen this axiom in your own life. For example, 80% of the time you wear 20% of your clothes. In the context of productivity, 80% of results come from about 20% of your effort. So it's important to identify what activities generate the most result and focus there. For my Scrum exam, reviewing the official Scrum guide, which contained all the information being tested, and doing practice exams were more than enough to pass the exam. I didn't need to also watch YouTube videos, Udemy courses, or read other content on the web. When I got back to my typical workday, given I had so little time, I didn't bother studying anything other than the Scrum guide and practice tests. The Pareto Principle works perfectly with the Pomodoro Technique. When planning your next project, identify the most essential tasks that generate the most significant value. Then split those tasks into units of work that can be completed within 25 minutes, and focus on the most important task first. Finishing individual projects or achieving personal goals is really hard. No one is monitoring your progress or checking if you're even working. It's extra challenging when we have so much more exciting and fun distractions. While we might occasionally finish our projects by just working really hard, it's difficult to consistently do this. Following a system or process can be a more reliable way to get things done. This is because a system is a repeatable process. By focusing on doing one small task well and consistently, you are making progress. And regardless of how small the progress is, so long as you're doing it, you will eventually reach your goal. Thank you again for watching this video, and if you have any feedback, please don't forget to leave them in the comments section below, and I'll see everyone later.